First she would be like, okay, let me tell you about the Dharma. It's like this, it's like that. And they're like, we will kill you. And he's like, okay. They will not listen, so she will manifest a big wrath and shoot all the arrows and lightning bolts and I don't know what. And then half of them would be convinced and would be fearful and would be like, okay, we follow the Dharma. And then the others that would continue to be weird, she would make love to all of them, multiplying herself into thousands of Dakinis, making love to all of them, and then they would be convinced and follow the path of the Dharma.
Most of humanity, if you look in the big scale of humanity over history, believes in a spiritual tradition. So what's the catch? Why is it that most people believe in something that's apparently contradictory? Apparently matter is above spirit, and yet everybody believes, at least to a degree, in a spiritual tradition. One of the answers to this question is miracles. Miracles are basically an expression of mind over matter, and more than that, soul and spirit over matter. And those moments of spiritual miracles stand as the baseline of almost every spiritual tradition. It stands there in the core of the belief, and the belief is revealed. In accordance to that miracle, we can see that spirit is above matter in that way. Christ resurrected. The bush did not burn. And therefore, reality is like that. So the miracles have a tremendous psychological importance and a tremendous factor of unity when it comes to all of world traditions.
We will talk in this first series of our lectures on epic spiritual moments about miracle competitions. One thing is you have a miracle, that's already very amazing. Miracles are like a proof for your spiritual size, if you will, for your spiritual accomplishment. But then a whole nother thing is if those miracles, they happen at will, summoned within the context of a competition where you are face to face with another super accomplished being. Within the lecture today, we want to give you a nice overview throughout different traditions and hopefully spark your interest in these accomplishments so that also you can start practicing in that direction. That is always the point in the end of the day. Now, as we heard, Padmasambhava had 5,000 lovers, out of which 5 were his favorites, out of which 2 were his favorites, out of which the first and foremost one was the great liberated Princess-Mandarava. This is the book, Lives and Liberation of Princess-Mandarava, very much recommended. Princess-Mandarava is, was, let's say, called in the books the Princess of Sahor, which might either relate to Bengal, the east of India, or to Udayana. In both of the places exist counties that are called Sahor. From Udayana, also Padmasambhava was from there. She's from a similar time accordingly. This account is a little bit before this miracle competition that Uriel told you about. So we are still in the 8th century. Princess-Mandarava was known to be an emanation of Pandaravasini, who is the consort of the great Buddha Amitabha. So she is a goddess who comes to this planet to manifest all sorts of miraculous things and set the people on the path of the Dharma and enlighten them as such. In this book you find many of her different lives and also her life as Princess-Mandarava. She is already, like her birth is quite miraculous. It is basically a mantra descending from heaven that enters her father and mother as they are making love, and they have all sorts of auspicious dreams afterwards, and turns out that the mother is pregnant and she feels wonderful, and in the belly the little baby is already singing songs of bliss to the great liberation of the void of everything. And she is even born wrapped in a silken cloth, and it is said that so she was born and she could already walk and talk. She had very, very long hair and had her little silken garment from out of the belly, and she would dance a very beautiful dance of gratitude to the parents for giving her a body. And she would then prostrate in front of the parents and make a long song and proclamation of gratitude to the parents for giving her the chance of living this life of dharma, which she will completely offer to help the liberation of other human beings. So you understand, she is a born Dakini already. Wherever you're watching this video, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell and all the little buttons that you could possibly...
We encourage you to hit the bell.
And for sure subscribe also.
Subscribe.
As a child, she's very joyful and sweet, and very soon, in the beginning of her life, she realizes that all samsara, all illusory life in this world leads to suffering and cannot be fulfilling. And the only thing that can ever be fulfilling is to search for liberation and to walk the path of the Dharma. So already at a very young age, she begs her parents to allow her to study the Dharma, and they bring the best of the best scholars and teachers, and she becomes, being a very fast learner, a great scholar and master of a lot of different things already as a child. She's studying all sorts of different traditions and teachings, from astronomy, astrology, reading all sorts of archetypal manifestations, being able to do all sorts of practices of breathing, of meditation, and she would have an extremely strict program of practice every day already as a child. At the age of 13, she has her first miracle competition, and many more will follow. And I would like you to imagine, I will read to you in a moment, how you were when you were 13. This little girl goes about and is invited to actually help in a country of heretics to somehow clear the country from all the people that are being weird around. And she goes there, 13 years of age, and performs the following miracle competition that I would like to read to you. One of the most famous heretical teachers traveled to the Indian country of Gautala. He was so skilled in the art of debate that not a single Buddhist scholar could defeat him. The Buddhist king of that country became disturbed by his presence in the kingdom. The prophecy stated that as a result of negative prayers, the famous heretical teacher was in fact an emanation of a demon. The force of his negative prayers was so powerful that no one could defeat him in dialectics. His miraculous powers were so developed that others were no match for him. According to the prophecy, only one person had the strength to break the spell of his negative karmic aspirations. That person was to be found in the eastern country of Bengal, and she was the honorable princess of Sahor, the primordial wisdom Dakini Mandarava. By age 13, Mandarava had trained and thoroughly mastered all the science. She was a Dakini incarnated, unstained by the effects of the womb. Upon hearing this prophecy, the king and the ministers convened and immediately prepared a letter of invitation to be sent to the king of Sahor. This letter was delivered to the king and the queen, and all the ministers gathered to discuss it. Then they informed Mandarava, 13 years of age, of the letter, and she agreed that she must leave immediately for that land. And bedecked in her finest attire, Mandarava departed with her entourage of attendants. Upon her arrival, the king, the ministers and attendants, and the entire kingdom greeted her with great respect and honor. The 5 most prominent heretics assembled to debate with Mandarava. She easily defeated them, and her victory was proclaimed. So imagine a 13-year-old girl against 5 grown men winning a debate. Then the powerful Nakpo, as was his name, this demon emanation, himself approached and challenged her to debate the inner meaning of the 6 treaties teaching wrong views. She accepted his challenge and proceeded to defeat him easily. Then he mockingly referred to her as a woman with a clever mouth who mistakenly wears garments of one with noble attributes. He said furthermore that if the rumors of her miraculous abilities were true, he thereby challenged her to display them. She accepted the challenge, and when he suddenly flew off into space, Mandarava made the threatening mudra with her hand, which we still don't know what it is, and he dropped from the sky like a stone. Still convinced that he could defeat her, he created a great storm of hail with all sorts of meteoroids in it. The Dakini made a mudra, and the hail and shower of thunderbolts dissolved in their own place. Still convinced that he was her match, he set out walking across the river Ganges as light as a bird. The Dakini clapped her hands, and he sank into the water as though he were a stone. After he emerged, he persisted, enticing her to compete with him by claiming that he had many other miraculous abilities. Suddenly, 6 heretics manifested themselves as 8 snow lions, flames shooting from their mouths and violent red wind blasting from their nostrils. The snow lion roared, "We will annihilate you, woman of magic." They all jumped in front of Mandarava, causing the king and his attendants to gasp in fear. At that moment, the Dakini shouted a single hum. The 8 snow lions were reduced to dog skins. Once again, the 6 heretics appeared. Suddenly, a torrential rain of poison descended upon the king and his retinue. The Dakini performed the breathing purification practice, immediately, as you would do when you are in poisoned rain, immediately reversing the poisoned rain so that it eliminated 3 countries of heretics. Still, the teacher of the heretics persisted to taunt the Dakini, telling her it was not enough to show her powers by just sitting there. If she were truly a magician, she had to prove she could fly. Saying this, he manifested a threatening spear from which a rain of arrows emerged. The Dakini elevated into space, caught the arrows in her hand, and blessing them, sent them back towards the demon, where they penetrated the heretics. Crying out in pain, they fell from the sky, and as they hit the ground, lost consciousness and expired. With that final miraculous deed, the heretics were completely defeated, and all the remaining followers were brought to the path of Dharma. So this is a little account from 13-year-old Princess-Mandarava. At the age of 16, she meets her master Padmasambhava that we already heard about and becomes his consort, and reaching thus complete liberation at 16. They go then together to many different places and countries, all sorts of realms, also beyond the physical realm, setting all sorts of beings on the path of Dharma. She manifests as a huge Dakini. She becomes thousands of different Dakinis, teaching to all sorts of people. She would first, for example, they go to these charnel grounds, these grounds where you have corpse everywhere and demons live there and feast on the corpse and so forth. And she would go there with Padmasambhava, and he would say, okay, I take care of this part, you take care of that part. She would go over there, and then first she would be like, okay, let me tell you about the Dharma. It's like this, it's like that. And they're like, we will kill you. And he's like, okay. They will not listen, so she will manifest a big wrath and shoot all the arrows and lightning bolts and I don't know what. And then half of them would be convinced and would be fearful and would be like, okay, we follow the Dharma. And then the others that would continue to be weird, she would make love to all of them, multiplying herself into thousands of Dakinis, making love to all of them, and then they would be convinced and follow the path of the Dharma. So she was a full-on magical being. Also, when she died, she didn't die, she just simply dissolved into space. And she was first rising up in space, talking to all her disciples, giving them the last instructions, then gradually dissolving and still talking very loudly from everywhere in space and telling them to remain on the path of the Dharma and walking towards liberation. And then she and her body were dissolved into light completely. Hey guys, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content on spirituality, tantra and more.
And if you want to sign up for our online classes or for our retreats, you can see our website on the description below.